Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Thank you also to many of you that commented yesterday on yesterday's video. The positive feedback was really overwhelming, and that video really did come from the heart. It was just a push record and let it kind of all fall out. So you really did see kind of, you know, where my heart is on the matter of America and what's going on right now and the world. I would like to kind of continue that conversation today and talk about kind of the meat and potatoes of it, of how we get ready. Because I do believe that there is a great potential, the odds are in the favor of us at some point in the near future. And when I say near, I mean days up to, months of seeing things spin out of control and us being kind of thrust into the position that we have to make a choice in our lives. We have to make a choice to be subservient and submissive, and or a choice to stand our ground and to draw that line in the sand and to say, no longer, not this time, not ever. That's a tough decision for pretty much anyone to make. We have never, as a people, I don't think, been pushed to this point before. Yes, we've had a revolution and we had a war between the states, and those were very bloody and very kind of dark moments that we had to go through to get to a better place. Although the war between the states, I believe that our nation as a whole ended up becoming more controlling after that. So, but that's a subject for another video. What I'm saying is that we're in a place right now that things could go really bad really quick. There is so much tension, and there's such an overt, hard push from the radicalized communist, Marxist, New World left that they are hell bent on getting their way and causing their, their desires to happen and be thrust upon us. And so what that does is it puts us in a position that we have to choose. And we're still hopeful that things will work out in our favor without this situation being turned into something more violent. Because any true warrior, you cannot be a warrior and hope and desire for battle and violence. A true warrior hopes and prays and seeks peace and seeks a way for things to move forward without getting to the point of violent confrontation. But a true warrior is also prepared for that time if it should happen. And so that's what we have to be as people, regardless of our age and our gender and our preparedness or training level. It doesn't matter, because this will affect everyone in the end, regardless. One of the silver linings in that cloud is that if you look throughout history, and especially American history, every time we go through a period like this, there is a spiritual revival also. And so we can hope and pray for that in this nation, to see a return back to her roots of acknowledging the blessing from God, and that we are that we have a duty and an obligation to acknowledge that as a people. So I would encourage you, those of you that share the same faith as I, that maybe some of you don't, and that's fine. But to prepare your heart in prayer and in study, because the things that we will face in the future can challenge us, and that is certainly the best way for you to become prepared for what lies ahead. Another thing to do is just to talk to your family. I think the discussions, just like you do in your normal preparedness, where you would have discussions with your family. Begin the discussions of how bad this is. You don't want to scare your family, and we did this last night here at our house. We have 2 adult children that still live at home, and so it was just a conversation with them, not the little ones. We don't want to get them scared just yet, or ever. But we talked about it, and I reminded them that, and my wife, she backed me up and agreed that many years ago, and even though it was many years ago, it still stands to this day. I took an oath to defend and protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And so there may come a day that I have to fulfill that oath again. And so having that kind of conversation, while it can be a little scary and a little tough, needs to start happening in homes that are aware of what is happening and how serious this is. Making sure that your bug out plans, if that's what you need, are in place. Those of you that live in areas that are probably going to be hot spots, you need to have a bug out plan. I'm not a huge advocate for bugging out. Never have been. I'm a big advocate for living in a safe place to where you don't have to bug out. But I know that's not an option for a lot of you right now. Maybe you're trying and it's taking longer, or maybe you just know that you just can't do it. And if that's the case and you have a plan to leave before things get bad, go over that plan. Make sure it's ready to work, and that you have discussed and figured out what are the markers that will cause you to enact that plan. And it's going to be different for everyone living in different areas. So it's not something I can tell you, you should bug out if this happens. Because again, bugging out, it's a very, risky thing to do, especially if you don't have everything set in stone. But if things got bad, I could certainly see in certain scenarios where it would be probably the wisest thing to do. So definitely work on that kind of stuff. Revisit your preps. Make sure that you have the food that you need and get it purchased. We're most likely going to be facing some disruption of supply lines between election stuff, between all these threats of trucking strikes. And we don't know how much that's going to affect anything. Maybe not. There's been threats of that in the past that didn't pan out. But then also this, epidemic that's upon us, this health epidemic. I don't know if many of you saw, but yesterday the state of Utah, the governor issued a state of emergency in Utah and instigated some pretty tough lockdowns there. Face covering mandates statewide, and some pretty harsh penalties for those that don't abide by his new lockdown laws. He's a Republican, and they're a very strongly red conservative state. So if they're doing that, the odds of the chance of that happening where you live, I think, are pretty good. If this continues to increase, which, hey, the numbers are showing that, regardless of whether it actually is true or not. Like I've said in the past, doesn't matter. What matters is what the masses and what the government believes, because that's going to affect you more than anything. So you got to get prepared for that. Man, guys and gals, you should have been stocking up on ammo a long time ago. It's just about extinct, isn't it? But it still exists, and there still are manufacturing. They're manufacturing ammunition, and it is showing up occasionally at certain places. So get to know the workers at the local farm store where the ammunition comes in, and maybe you'll get lucky and you can get a heads up on when it shows up. And pick you up some. It's happened recently here at one of the ones that aren't too far from us. They got a shipment of a few cases, and it wasn't that expensive. It went fast, but if you were lucky, you got some. And I was there, and also let a few people know that live around here. Hey, they got some that showed up. You ought to get down here quickly. Because that kind of stuff is going to get harder and harder and harder to find. Medical supplies. No one wants to think about it, but we should all prepare for it. If this becomes a hot situation, you're going to want medical supplies. Uh, get yourself ready as best you can. No one wants this to happen. No one desires it. No one is encouraging it. And I would do everything I could to stop this from happening if I was in that position. Because no one wants to see it go down that road. The other side, though, is most of us know that we're at a point now that it's probably the only thing that can really change stuff. Um, it's kind of like ripping that Band-Aid off. Uh, if we don't face this enemy right now, our children are going to face this enemy, or their children is going to face it. And as much as we may not want to face it, isn't it better for us to do it now than to push it off on our children? I believe the one thing that Joe Biden said that I think he was right on is we are looking at a dark winter. Is it the dark winter of the Operation Dark Winter? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that we're the path that we are headed, regardless of who's found to win the election, because at this point, it almost doesn't even matter anymore. I mean, it will certainly, depending on who wins, will change the aspect of this, but I don't know that it really matters in the long run. It may slow things down or something like that, but I don't think either person can stop this train that we're on. Only you and I can stop this train. Only the people, if enough of us stand up. Is there still that fighting spirit in America? I think that there are a lot of people that still have that. But is there anyone that can lead that fighting spirit? Are there enough people that realize that we've got to take that step? I don't know. All I do know is as preppers, we talk about all the things that we have to prepare for, that we should prepare for. And we've mentioned this kind of stuff in the past, and I know preppers sometimes even geek out over preparing for the potential civil war. But now we're here right now. Now we're looking out over that field, and we see it happening, and we see that there are almost no exit plans to get out and away from what we face. And so the probability of something happening right now has got to be pretty high. I mean, the doomsday clock should be moved back to 2 minutes to midnight, because the tension right now in this country on both sides, the disinformation, the lies, the gaslighting, the manipulation of the media, the overt boldness of the left to push their agenda, is quite possibly more than it's ever been, and more than I thought it maybe could be. It is like we are living in some kind of dystopian movie. So, as much as some of you might think I'm kind of hyping this up, I don't believe that I am. And I hope and I pray that we're able to resolve this and set America back on the right track. But the fact is America's been on the wrong track for a very long time. And that tree of liberty is wilting. She's thirsty, and she's dying. And there's only way to revive her. That's right, the blood of patriots and tyrants. No one wants to take that step and cross that line. But at some point, it may just have to be crossed. And so if that is in fact what the road that we're headed down, we must do our due diligence to prepare ourselves, our families, our hearts, our minds, and our bodies. Because if we don't, we might as well just throw in the towel right now. Because the enemy that we face, they know what they're going to do, and they have a clear conscience of this fight that they're in, and they will not back down. If there's no opposition, it's going to be like a freight train out of control, folks. We've been on this track for a long time, but they have brought it to full steam. and they have no intention whatsoever of slowing it down. Only through you and I and others like us can we slow down and stop this train and derail it, maybe, if that's the only option. But at some point, we must take that final stand and do it for what is right. Because if not us, who else will? All right, folks. Thank you all for watching. If you don't mind, click a like and subscribe button. It really is the only way to combat YouTube's algorithms against programming like this. Share it around with your friends and families, and I'll catch you in the next video.